Hello, everyone, and welcome to Whoey Ood, an unofficial Doctor Who watch along podcast. I am your host, Ben, and today, as always, I am here with Cam. How are you, Cam?
I am doing wonderful. If you listen to us on audio right now, please, for the sake of your sanity, go to our YouTube page. On the YouTube page, we will have the video for this one. This one, you are going to want to watch the video because of today's topic, Ben. What are we doing today, Ben?
Today, we are doing a Jon Pertwee Third Doctor retrospective and ranking. And now we will try our best to make it as understandable as possible as an audio only experience, but it will be greatly enhanced by having the accompanying YouTube video. So please go check that out.
And we will try to be as objective as possible
Yes,
with the rankings.
our word is the truth.
All right, Ben. Should we get right into it?
Yeah. So what what to talk about first? I mean, should we talk about the episodes first, or is there anything we should discuss first about Jon Pertwee?
I think at the end of the day, Ben, we talked a lot about Jon Pertwee. I just need to know for certain that Common Space is in the last space.
Okay.
We need to take care of that.
So we have a tier here, ranks S to F, S, A, B, C, D, F. Now, I don't know about you. I would argue that there are no stories here that are an F ranking. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree. I think there's two.
Really?
There's three in my opinion, but there's two I would say overall that we can both agree on.
Really? Like even the worst stories to me, which I guess spoiler alert, is um Colony in Space. You would argue the Time Monster, but we'll talk about that. And what? Death of the Daleks
Death to the Daleks and Monster Peloton.
and Monster Pellet. Okay.
That's the bottom barrel of the list.
I would argue though, even though these aren't great, but like they're not unwatchable. They're not offensive.
But they're so boring, Ben. They're so boring. And that's the worst thing a story can be at the end of the day. I would much rather want a traumatizing story than just a plain old boring story. And that's what those three stories are, in my opinion. Sorry to you, Death the Daleks fanboys out there.
F to me would be like something like a Space Pirates, where it's just like there's not a single redeemable quality. Like Calling in Space has some cool master stuff. You know, there are interesting things that happen into this story. It's just the bottom of the barrel. Like these are fives and sixes. These aren't like twos.
But also, is there not like ranking this in terms of what we have? We kind of have what we have, right? I think it would be kind of boring if we just lump a lot of this in D, in C, and B tier. We have to be somewhat flexible with this format. And for the format and grading we have, the see, this is what I will also point out is that we are American, right?
Sure, yeah, we are
American
American.
school system tells us that those stories are an F.
I guess that's one way to look at it, but we don't get an S grade.
No, we don't. No, we do not. So is there any of those stories that you would say belongs in D?
Throughout our journey here, we've clowned a lot on Colony in Space, but I think we can agree, maybe, that it's better than the two bad stories in season 11.
I think honestly I would agree. I think that
Like, we rated them higher too.
yeah,
But is it a high F or is it a low D? I guess is the question.
I think it's just a high F, and this those other two are just like low Fs. Now the interesting question is, what's worse, Death the Daleks or the Monster Peloton? That's where it becomes more interesting. I know you have it in your rankings right now that Monster Peloton is worse,
hmm
but I don't know. Those two stories are both equally bad, but Monster Peloton is a little bit worse because it's a six-potter at the end of the day.
Yeah. Death of the Daleks at least is brief.
And there's nothing as good in Monster Peladon as Pot Three's cliffhanger. Stop!
Yeah.
Don't move. Um,
Ah, the floor jumped out in front of us. What are we gonna
like
do?
Monster Peladon doesn't have anything that bad, you know? And at least like something even like the score for Monster that means the score for Death of the Daleks. It's you remember that it has a fucking weird score. It's memorable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think how we have it here is accurate. And while I would still put out the argument that these aren't truly unredeemably F tier stories, I suppose we can say relative to everything else, it is an F tier story.
So where do we move on? Do we do S tier now? Or do we do D tier?
Um, I don't know. So aside from these, what does it make sense to do? Should we just go down the list?
Nah, nah, I don't wanna do because that's boring to me. I more would like to play some more, like I don't wanna go down a list, you know? I want it to be more a little bit free flowing, man.
Okay. Well, I still want to talk about Spearhead from Space. I think
Where would you put Spearhead?
I think it's S tier for sure.
8.5 is not an S tier rank, but, would you
Well, an
say that
8.5 is what I rated it on day 1, where
yeah,
I had no perception of what a Jon Pertwee story is, and I still really liked it, which is why I gave it an 8.5. But now having gone through this journey, I can definitely say that it is a top tier, S tier story that, you know, as we talked a little bit about, what are the must-sees, the essentials, and I think that is undoubtedly one of them.
and to add on to our S tiers, I agree with you, I think that is an S tier story. I rated it a 9. It's definitely in that list of like, if I said you had to watch third Doctor stories, that's on the list.
Absolutely.
But I would also say another story that we have to add on the list from season 7 would be Inferno, of course.
Of course.
Inferno, I would say even Ben, already at this point put it even above Spearhead. I would put it above Spearhead. I think you would too.
Yeah.
Inferno is the
Inferno,
masterpiece in the Third Doctor's era.
oh yeah, it has a legendary status, and it's for a very good reason.
It is just one of those stories that you just wanna right
Mhm.
now, if you said like for a 7-potter, if somebody told me, "Hey, do you wanna watch Inferno?" I would say gladly. I would put it on right now, Ben.
Yeah.
Inferno is just that good of a story.
Would definitely totally agree. I think the score here we have is still accurate. I don't think I love it quite as much as you. Like, I think it's awesome, but, like, it can be a little bit meandering at times for a seven-parter. Like, it would have been like a 10 out of 10 six-parter maybe, but still definitely one of the probably the best story here.
I don't know why, Ben, but I think next, Ben, we have 2 other Dalek stories here.
Yes.
Let's let's see let's try to guide where we're going now. So, Day of the Daleks, the first one, that one I would say is the best one out of the bunch.
Yeah, which kinda sucks because it's a fine story. It's a 7, but, like, the Daleks can be so much more, and I was so disappointed. And we went back with Planet of the Daleks and Death of the Daleks to a more, air quotes, "traditional" Dalek story, and that didn't really work either. But Day of the Daleks is trying to do something new, and if it wasn't for the damn Terry Nation coming back, maybe we could have gotten something better. I don't know. For future Dalek stories in this era.
Personally, I would say that Day of the Daleks, the first 2 parts alone, the first half of the story, I would say just that half alone makes it at least low B.
Yeah.
I I know that you might be more thinking high C, which definitely I could be open to.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking because like you get the fun moments of Unit at the at the house, the third Doctor eating his cheese and wine.
Oh, yes.
And then you had the interesting storyline of the politician seeing the ghosts and they see an assassination attempt. I think all that stuff's really good stuff. It just kind of loses it once the Doctor and Joe move to like the future, and it kind of comes a little bit like the bricks kind of do lose its steam in a way,
Yeah.
and it kind of comes boring. But I would say the first half alone makes it at least a low B in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, no, it definitely has a great foundation, but, like, the Daleks aren't really even in it, you
Yeah,
know? Like, they're the puppet masters in the background, but, they're not really an active participant in the story per se. It's
no.
mostly focusing on the human characters and the Ogrons, but it's interesting. I could go back and forth between a low B and a high C as well.
I would say let's leave it in B for now, and we'll see
Yeah.
later on how it's ranking.
So Planet of the Daleks then. What to do for that? It's a very much, as we called it, like a kind of a remix of 1963's The Daleks. And it's not as good as The Daleks, of
No.
course. Not that the Daleks' controversial take is a pinnacle of storytelling. It's only just like pretty good. It's definitely not great. I don't know if it's a high D or a low C. What?
I'm kinda going like I already forget so much of the little details from that story
Mhm.
that if you told me like what is the middle chunk of Planet of the Daleks, even though we only watched it a couple of weeks ago, I'm still like I couldn't tell you. I think that says a lot about Planet of the Daleks.
Yeah, it's definitely very an underwhelming story where the Daleks just kind of get pushed around quite literally, and it's just Dals versus Thals. Gonna say it's a high D, but with the opportunity to be risen to a low C.
Okay.
I don't know if you'd agree with that.
I would agree. I would totally agree.
Elsewhere in D tier, I think I would put the mutants.
But I would put the mutants above Planet of the Daleks. Mutants has so much more. So much more interesting than Planet of the Daleks, and I think that the evolution stuff plus the them having a blank on the main guy, the main villain of the mutants.
I can't think of the guy's name either, but he is good.
But he is his campy performance and over the top performance, I would say makes it better than Planet of the Daleks, and I would put that at least. I would even put that in high C. I mean, the low D is low C,
Not a high
but
D.
that's just me. I know that I kind of like the mutants a little bit more than you do.
I mean, just a little bit. Like I'll give it that it's. I mean, even though I rated it, I guess we should have mentioned that. So for the people that are watching the YouTube video, we have compiled all our rankings and overlaid them on top of them. So in blue is Cam, and in green is my rank. So if you're watching the YouTube video, as you can see, I gave the mutants a point lower than Planet of the Daleks, but I can see it. I probably it's got more interesting things going on for sure. But a low is it enough to bring it up to C tier though? I don't know.
All I'm saying is if we were saying that Planet of the Daleks might be a low C, I think the mutants is definitely a low C.
Okay, I'll bump it up for you, Cam, for now. Speaking of C, what do you think of the Claws of Axos?
I feel like you would generally put this more in a low D. Just
Yeah.
judging by you gave it a 5.9 when we watched it, but
When I
I'm
think
a
I was a particularly harsh rating on my part. Maybe I just was not feeling it that week. Retrospectively, 5.9 is a little harsh. I would give it higher than a 5.9. I don't love it. I get what it's going for. It's kind of a campy four-parter, and I wasn't really on board with it. It's just
Lower than
kind of
Colony in Space, Ben.
I guess I did do that. I would put it in like a C.
But here's the question: is it better than the Mutants? I think it's better than the Mutants. I love the Claws of Axos. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna say I love the Claws of Axos for what it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's better than the mutants probably.
All right, so if we're in the C, we're now in the C category. We got to throw out that other C. That's just I'm just looking at it right now. That belongs in this tier. It's Frontier in Space.
Really, Frontier in Space.
Are you thinking low B for that?
I think it's high C.
No, oh, you know, definitely. I would definitely say it's higher. I would put it personally higher than Claws of. I wouldn't put it higher than Claws of Axos, but I can understand that maybe you.
I enjoyed it more than either of the two that are currently in C tier, I
So
would say.
since you gave me Claws of Axos so high, Ben, we'll do Frontier in Space high C.
No, you see, I don't know if I can do that because I gotta bank your favor for later. For another one of my controversial takes,
Ugh.
which maybe we can talk about that right now. The Time Monster.
Oh
I
God.
love like it's not an S tier story. It's probably not even an A tier story. But do you really want to put it like down here with this stuff? Like
I would.
it's so funny though.
Because like
And think of the scenes in the TARDIS of the master and the doctor. The master mutes the doctor and the doctor's always got to get the last word. The master begging for his life in front of the giant woman.
I just think of the Time Monster and I get feel a little headache in the back of my head, Ben. It's like it's already coming. I just can't stand it. I think compromise wise, it's I would feel like because where independently you would put it like high C, low B.
I would put it like objectively, air quotes objectively, like mid B. But like in my heart, I've had a lot of fun with it. Maybe even like a high B.
Wow,
Like if I had the choice between sitting down and watching all six part of the Time Monster or four parts a day of the Daleks, I would do the Time Monster every time.
that's insane to me.
Like Day of the Daleks, it's like a good story, but and the Time Monster is not a good story for sure, but like it's fun, it's funny. I enjoyed my time with it way more than Day of the Daleks. And maybe it's just the idea of like maybe this franchise is just closer to your heart. So when it is like given a middle finger to Doctor Who, you take it more personally or something.
Maybe
I don't know. The campiness to me is a plus, and it seems to you it's a minus.
yes. I I would say, Ben, for compromise sakes, it's in between Claws of Axos and Frontier in Space. But I understand that you compromise for me for Claws of Axos. So like, but like, I think Claws of Axos and the Frontier in Space are better than the Time Monster.
Do you think it's the mutants is better?
Yeah, I think so, but I know I have to compromise somewhat. So I understand if you would like it above
All right.
the
How
mutants.
about this? Can you live with this?
I can live with that.
Okay. And this for the audio only listeners is in between the mutants and Frontier in Space in the middle of C tier. Maybe it'll be low C tier when it all is said and done, but for now, at the middle of C tier. And especially, like, are you telling you gave them both a 5.6? The Time Monster and Colony in Space are equal in your mind?
Yeah, stories I just never wanna watch again.
Really? But just enjoyment level are exactly the same.
Yes.
Colony in Space is so boring, though.
Yes. And also Time Monster gets that boring too in sections. Once they get to Atlantis, it puts me to sleep then.
Think of Naked Benton, though.
Naked Benton is a plus.
Is that enough for S tier?
No, but if Benton was a baby throughout the majority of the story, and that was just the story of the Doctor and Joe trying to make Benton be a grown up again, then it would be S. But sadly, it isn't that. So I can't put it in the S tier, man.
Damn, okay. So that's the Time Monster. That was one of the big ones that we had contention about. The other kind of glaring, I guess there's a couple glaring ones. Uh, kind of three glaring ones where we had a kind of a difference of opinion. The Mind of Evil, I liked way more than you. And
Yes.
I rated it an 8.5 at the time. You rated it a 7.0. Now, like we've said, having done the journey, taken those steps, 8.5 I think is high. I still like this story though, but 8.5 is definitely too high. If I could edit it, which no, we can't edit it unless we make another episode, I would put it more towards like a 7.8 or a 7, somewhere between a 7.7 and a 7.9, I would say. What are you thinking?
I think I had probably a week like you had with Claws of Axos. That maybe I just wasn't in the mood. So maybe that's why I rated it really low. But also, I'm not the biggest fan of Money Evil. So I'm thinking I would put it in C, but I can understand compromise sake, so put it maybe more high C, low B.
Do you like it more than the Time Monster?
I like it more than the Time Monster.
Okay. Even though I rated the Mind of Evil higher, I think I might like the Time Monster more. I don't know.
Then do you like the Mind of Evil more than Frontier and Spaceman?
That's a good question. Maybe a tiny bit. Like I said, like a 7.8. I'm guessing you like Frontier in Space more.
I think I do, personally.
Okay.
But I that's one that's like I would probably put those in the same sphere.
Mhm.
So if you wanted to put it higher than Frontier and Space, I wouldn't like fight you. But I also wouldn't like be opposed to doing it, keeping it like it is at the moment. Frontier is higher.
Mhm. I think we can keep it here. Like if I think about like the Master, which is one of the best parts of both those stories, I think I like the Master more in Frontier in Space than I do in Mind of Evil. The big thing I really like of the Mind of Evil is the Keller machine and it showing the deepest, darkest fears of, you know, Sherlock and Moriarty and how they see each other is very interesting.
Okay, Ben. A is looking empty.
A is looking very empty.
I would put I would put the Damons A, personally.
I think yeah, it's a high A. And I think I originally gave it a 7.9. I would give it a little bit higher now. Maybe like an 8.2 or an 8.3. It's a very solid story. Plus it has Bach.
Yeah. But also
So
just
that's a pretty
the
big plus.
good a good pacing overall. Great use of the countryside and like townsfolk and a good third doctor master story. I just think that it belongs in A. Another story I would put in A would be Terror of the Autons.
I would agree with that as well. I think it's not as good as the Daemons, but very, very solid.
And a great introduction for Joe and the Master.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Robert Holmes does enough new interesting ideas with the Autons as a concept that makes it a really fun story to watch as a
Alright.
sequel to Spearhead.
Other A, I would definitely put Carnival of Monsters.
I would put
That's
it higher than Autons.
yeah, right around there feels good. In
I would
between
probably put it higher than Damon's, but I can
really?
understand if maybe you prefer the Damons personally.
I don't think I do. I think I like Carnival of Monsters more.
Just one, it's a four-parter, so it's a little bit tighter. And I
Mhm.
think that some of the ideas in Carnival of Monsters is more creative.
There's a rare few, like, really great just singular parts, and I think, like, Carnival Monsters Part 1 is really great when you don't quite know what's going on. Along a similar line of Invasion of the Dinosaurs, where that first part where it's just an empty New York where they or not New York, an empty London, where they're walking around just trying to figure out what's the heck is going on is has a really great first parter. Where would you put Invasion of the Dinosaurs?
I would put it in a similar space as Frontier in Space, but I see that you're already putting it at low B.
I
I can't say that it's not low B.
mhm.
I think Invasion of the Dinosaurs is it's a strong story. Not a strong story, but it's a pretty solid story.
Yeah,
It's not a bad story. It's solid.
it's solid. Like B to me is like this is good. C is like fine. D is bad. F is terrible
Yeah.
in my mind. Um, and A is great. S is essential. Must see. Perfect. Near perfect.
Okay. So I feel like we have two that we have to talk about. And two that's gonna probably be the most different from the rankings that we gave them. Just because they were early on in our career as
Yeah.
podcasters, Doctor Who and the Solarians and the Ambassadors of Death.
Both of those I would rate much higher than I originally gave them.
Yes, me too.
How high though is the question.
I would say, would we put them both as B? Definitely, I would say if definitely if we're putting Invasion of the Dinosaurs in B. Both of those stories are better than Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Yes. I would
So I
even
would,
say like Doctor Who and the Silurians is better than Day of the Daleks.
because yeah, you get some good shit in there. You get some good stuff in Doctor Who and the Silurians, but
Yeah.
again, Doctor Who and the Silurians just has that problem of it's a seven potter.
Yeah.
If it was like anything, if it was a five potter or like a or a even a six potter, it would be a much a better story. But it drags in a point when it doesn't. Like part three, I just remember the unit is in like the caves and the doctor is kidnapped, and the story just comes to a halt until we get like the whole disease virus plot point, and then the story picks up.
Mhm.
Ah, I personally I would put Day of the I think I like Day of the Docs a little bit more, but I can't lie. Like Doctor and the Silurians does have a lot of good stuff in it, so
Yeah.
I can't fight it too much, Ben. If you feel strong that the Solarians is better.
I don't feel that strongly, but like I do feel that way. I can give it to you. I can give it to you. Day of the Daleks. I understand why someone would like it more. And not I don't really love Doctor Who and the Silurians, but it's got good stuff.
Oh yeah,
And the other one is the Ambassadors of Death, the other kind of season 7 story.
which is very similar. Has a lot of great stuff in there, but the pacing it does hurt it.
Yeah. I
I would
would
probably put it right where you put it, Ben, right in
yeah,
between Doctor and the Solarians and Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
which I ranked it higher than Doctor Who: and The Silurians. I think I would revise that as well. Some other points of contention I see. Curse of Peladon. I gave it a very high rating, 8.1 versus your 6.8. I think I would retract that. I think this is more like a 7.3.
I would probably put the same thing. I would probably give it a little bit more points. Probably more like a 7.3.
So
So
kind of like D
oh, no,
tier?
no, no, no,
No?
like, it's better than the mutants, it's better I would say I feel like we have to put at least Curse of Peladon above the Time Monster.
How much do I want to fight you on that? That's a good question. No, no, it's got some good stuff. I'll give it to you. Better than Mind of Evil?
See, these are both stories that I don't really love to begin with. I would keep it where it is.
Yeah. The other kind of point contention, the Time Warrior. I think it's a good story. I don't think like you gave it an 8.9. That seems exorbitantly high. Like the Sontaran is great. Sarah Jane is fine. I think she's much better in the following story of Invasion of the Dinosaurs. It didn't quite gel for me, I think, as much as it did for you. Like I like the Sontaran, I like Sarah Jane, but she I think doesn't really come into her own until the following story, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. And maybe some of that rating is just like the first story with a new companion bias where you're like, who the fuck is this? That's not Joe. Maybe that could have influenced my rating to be a little lower, but even now, I think 7, maybe I could bump it up to like a 7.9 or an 8.0, but as a historical of people running around with swords screaming, I didn't really enjoy it.
But no, I see. All right, here's the problem. I would put the Time Warrior. My placement would be A plus, the first top of A.
Yeah.
But I know that you are gonna probably fight it more to be somewhere in the B, according just judging if you want to give it a 7.9.
I would give it like a low A.
So, all right. So is do you the all right, so here's the question.
Like I don't think it's better than the
So
Daemons.
is it better than Terror of the Autons? I think it's better than Terror of the Autons, personally.
Yeah, it probably is better than Terror of the Autons. I rated it higher. I don't think it's better than the Daemons though.
Okay, I can live with that. I can live with that one. Okay, so we have 4 big ones left. 4 fucking biggers.
Yes. So how about we do the odd one out is the Sea Devils. The other three are eights. Sea Devils, you gave a 7.9, I gave a 7.7. What are your that was like the midway point of this. How do you feel about the Sea Devils now?
I think the big question is basically, do we prefer the Sea Devils or do we prefer Doctor Who and the Silurians?
Yeah, that's a pretty direct comparison to make.
I think there's a lot of things that I prefer in the Sea Devils. I love the Doctor Doc as term as a Doctor and Master story, you can't get better than the Sea Devils in my opinion. It's a oh, except for the Daemons, but like it's a really good Master and Doctor story.
Mhm.
But the Silurians, the concept of the Silurians is done extremely better in Doctor Who and the Silurians. So if you more want that aspect of it and the political aspect of it, the Doctor Who and the Silurians has you.
But Roger Delgado, Cameron.
Yeah, I think it's kind of
Like hoverboat chases, Cameron.
definitely the Sea Devils is more pulpy than Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Yeah. I think I enjoy the Sea Devils more. I like the more pulpiness over like the serious seven-parter drama.
See, that's the dilemma because I think Doctor and the Solarians is a better story than the Sea Devils, but I think I enjoy the Sea Devils more than Doctor Who and the Solarians.
Yes. I don't know. To me, I think for some people these things are one, but for me personally, whenever I have to give anything like a ranking, uh there are two kind of values. There's like enjoyment level and there's like objective quality, where those can be two different numbers. Like the Sea Devils has a lower objective quality but a higher enjoyment value. Dr. Who's Salarians is inverted. Like the Time Monster has a very low objective quality, but for me it has a very high enjoyment level.
Like, I think Malcolm Hulk does a better job in the script development in Doctor and the Solarians. I would probably at this day. I think this is fine, Ben. If you want to put the Sea Devils above it, you know what? I'm not gonna fight you. I'm not gonna fight you.
But you're not content with it. You want do you want the Doctor Who and the Salarians to be higher?
No, because I like I said, I prefer I do enjoy the Sea Devils a little bit more than Doctor
Yeah.
and the Solarians. So I think we can move on to Planet of the Spiders. I would say.
Okay.
Which where do we rank that?
I think it's like a low A. Like it's long. It can
Yeah,
get kind of boring at times. But there's a lot of really great stuff here, which is why we both rated it an 8.1.
yeah,
I would put it higher than anything in B tier. So I guess the question is it better than Terror of the Autons?
and it isn't.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
So I think the I my question would be: is this B or is this a high B, the highest that a B can be, or is this the lowest that an A can be? Is this a 91 or is this an 89 in terms of American grading score? And if you think it's a you think if it's a low A, I think I can get behind that, but also if you think it should be in high B, I also would be behind that.
I'm edging towards a low A versus a high B. I think I think this is not a perfect story by any means, but I think this is one of the greats. Not truly a must watch, but a very good story.
Okay, so we have 2 more stories left. I got a feeling they're both gonna be A.
Mhm.
So, where should we put the 3 doctors?
In my heart, it's S tier, just because my boy Patrick Troughton is back. I missed him so much, and he's great. And William Hartnell is back. Do people call him like casually Bill, or do
The
people always
the
say William Hartnell?
Yeah, but like, the people that know him call him Bill.
So he's William to us.
People I in my mind, he's just Hotnell. I would just refer to him as Hotnell, like, the same thing with Troughton, I would just call him Troughton
You
and
don't
Pertwee.
call him Pat.
Like, Tom is the only one that I would go like, "No, that's Tom."
You know. Well, that Tom is an exception though, because there's another Baker.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, of course, and then
If it was Colin McDowell or whatever random British name,
yeah,
would you call him Baker?
maybe, m but, like, it's the same thing for, like, Peter. Peter is Davison because, like, there's 2 Peters,
Mhm.
so it's tricky.
Do people call the Seventh Doctor McCoy?
Yeah, yeah, I would say more people call him McCoy than Sylvester. And then people would call Paul McGann, like, that's McGann's doctor. Some people, I think, might call him Paul. But to go back to the 3 doctors, I
Yes.
feel I understand that inkling of wanting to put in an S, but I don't think it's as good as kind of Le Monsters or the Daemons.
No, I want to. but it's
I
not.
would put it above the time. I would put the Time Monster above it. But I understand that you would want to put it more in the Daemons and the Time Warrior. I can understand. I get that.
I would edge more towards between the Daemons and the Time Warrior versus between the Time Warrior and Terror of the Autons.
Do you know what? I can I can get along with that.
And then the Green Death.
I would put it in between the Time Warrior and Terror of the Autons, but I can understand. I can understand if you prefer the Green Death over the Time of the Warrior.
Like I would even put it like here, like above the Three Doctors.
See, my rankings, like I just like the Time Warrior better than Green Death, but I can get behind that ranking. I can get behind it, Ben.
You think it's better than Three Doctors, even though it's not better than the Time Warrior?
Yeah, I think it is better than the Three Doctors. So
So that's all of them.
not a lot of D's.
Which I would again I would loop back around to arguing there is no F, that these
Yeah,
are just low D's, and these are bad stories, but not like horrendous.
yeah.
I don't know if having played it all out, if he would agree with me or still
How would you
disagree with me.
feel if we put Death to the Daleks and Monster Peladon in F? Because we both agreed that it's Colony in Space is better than those two.
Yeah, I get
Or does Colony not deserve to be a little bit higher than them?
Colony is just a little bit higher, not much.
But a rank higher.
A whole number, a whole letter higher.
Yeah, that's the question. I don't think so. I would put them all three in F, but if you want to get crazy.
Well, is there a world where the mutants is a high D, or do you think it's a firmly a low C?
I think it's a low C. I like the mutants. So I think that's the rankings.
So here is our ranking. Pro from the top for audio listeners. S tier, like if you don't watch if you don't watch anything else, you should watch these. Assuming you haven't been watching along at home for the watch along podcast, that you should be. Um is Inferno as number 1 and then Spearhead from Space. In A tier is Carnival of Monsters, The Daemons, The Green Death, The Three Doctors, The Time Warrior, Terror of the Autons, and Planet of the Spiders. In B tier is Day of the Daleks, The Sea Devils, Doctor Who and the Silurians, The Ambassadors of Death, and Invasion of the Dinosaurs. In C is The Claws of Axos, Frontier in Space, The Mind of Evil, The Curse of Paladon, The Time Monster, and The Mutants. All Alone in D tier is Planet of the Daleks. And in F is the trio of bad stories Colony in Space, Death to the Daleks, and The Monster of Paladon. So I think that's a pretty definitive rating.
And there it is. So now to go to, we have another tier list for the seasons.
So what are these? How would you rank these seasons?
Number one, of course, is 7.
Yeah,
Number 5, of course, is 11.
yeah,
Now, for the Katie and Master seasons, all 3 of those are pretty consistently good.
yes. I think 10 we can agree is I think we said at the time it's the best one since season 7.
Yes. It
And
has
our
3
ratings reflect
Doctors,
that.
has Green Death, and it has Carnival of Monsters.
Mhm.
3, it has if you go to our rankings, it has the most in the B tier. It just the season 7 just has 2 S tier stories.
Which yeah, it gets kind of carried. For season 8 and season 9,
But definitely, I would just say real quick before we move on, I would say like definitely Season 10, I would say, is the most consistent season overall.
Yes, it is very solid. Season 7 also, I think, gets kinda carried by its first and last,
Oh, yeah.
and season 10 is a similar scenario. Not although the middle is really good too. So the question is season 8, the season of the master, is that better or worse than season 9?
I would probably go 9 as 3, just because you have Day of the Daleks, and you have Day of the Daleks, and you have, the Sea Devils. Uh, I don't know, they're both I would put them both in the very same category. It's hard.
Like they're both B tier seasons or something?
Yeah. I would
But if you
probably I
had to
would
do one as better than the other,
I would probably go actually 8 above 9, personally.
that's fair. 9 for me, I can see how the Time Monster really drags down the average score for you, and it doesn't for me. And 9 has Curse. What else does 9 have? Sea Devils, the Mutant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
season
think
8 is probably better.
8 has just the 8 having autons and having the daemons just makes it above higher than 9.
Already. So, from the top, 7, 10, 8, 9, and then 11. So the next kind of thing to talk about is the companions. Now, I don't know if it makes more sense to give them a letter grade or if just to order them. What makes more sense to you?
Oh, just letter grade because it doesn't make if we were doing the ordering if we ordered them, I would just do Liz, Joe, and Sarah because those are the actual companions.
Hmm. Yeah, that was one thing I wasn't so sure about. So Liz, Joe, and Sarah are unequivocally companions, but I think there is a certain argument to be made that the unit family, the Brigadier Benton and Mike Yates, are in a way a kind of companion to the Doctor, or if not a strict companion, they're enough of a recurring character to fill a similar role. Well, what do you think? In your mind, is are these unit people
They're
companions?
not companions. They're more like and friends. You know,
Hmm.
it's like the new Who version of it would be kind of like the Paternoster gang, fucking companions. They're not. They're just like friends.
Yeah.
So like I would just rank Liz, Joe, and Sarah, but then we can have fun and do the other 3.
Does it make sense to have them separate or to consider them as unit, as one kind of entity?
Oh, we can do it separate. So let's just start off, Ben,
Who's the
with
best
Joe.
companion?
Joe is S tier.
Joe is the best companion for sure. So, yeah, there's not much debate in terms of Joe. Joe is the best. Joe is the Jon Pertwee companion. 100%. The question is we get to Sarah and Liz.
Sarah, in terms of her relationship, Sarah in the episodes with the Third Doctor is
Yes.
B.
Could not talking about her next 2.5 seasons, but just as a companion to Pertwee's doctor.
She is B. She's good.
Really. As a companion to Pertwee, I don't think she's a great companion, but as a standalone character, I think she's really good. Like, I think back to Invasion where they're totally separate and I'm just as invested in what she's doing as what John's doing. But yeah, B tier. Liz, I don't know about you. I hardly even remember Liz at this point. And Liz doesn't have that much of a presence. Do you remember any character traits of Liz Shaw?
No, I do not. She is C. Maybe even D. Remember when she fell off a bridge in Ambassadors of Death, remember this?
Remember when she was, uh, a I was gonna say a Nazi, but she wasn't a Nazi, she was just, like,
Fascist.
fascist, yeah. Remember when she was a fascist?
Yes.
And that was the best thing she ever did?
I would probably say Brigadier belongs in A tier, just because he's the Brigadier.
Well, of course.
Benton belongs in B.
You're gonna do Benton dirty like that?
Benton's B. He's not as good as the Brigadier. Um, and then Mike Yates is C to D. Who cares about Mike Yates?
Yeah. He betrayed us, and whatever he does on Planet of the Spiders is not enough to make up for it. So we talked about the companions, who the best companion is of them all, which of course is Joe.
Of course. There could only be one.
Joe, easy win.
Oh yeah.
Do you think Liz and Sarah fail as Pertwee's companion in similar ways?
You see, I think that's an interesting conversation. I don't think Sarah does as much. I think the problem with Sarah is more the fact that she is written in a lot of those stories like Curse in particular, the big one is Death of Daleks, where she's just written as a normal Doctor Who companion. Like just your standard 60s Doctor Who female companion, which Sarah Jane is not. A case in point of this is like we talked about is I think the Time Warrior, but then one of the main examples that we both agreed on was the Invasion of the Dinosaurs,
Yeah.
which she really shines in that. And if we got, I feel like if we got a second season of Sarah Jane and the Third Doctor, we probably got would have got more stories like that.
Yeah.
But then the problem is we don't get a lot of that, and, like, they don't have, like, the greatest chemistry together. John works so much better as the fatherly role that he has with Katie, and you really can't describe that in the same relationship with Sarah. He kinda just has, like, a I don't even know how you would describe that relationship. That which is one of the problems with it.
Yeah, because he still treats her like she's a child, but she's a grown ass woman.
Yeah.
So when he pinches her cheek and pulls her into the TARDIS, it's weird. It's not endearing.
It doesn't have the same quality as it does with Katie.
Even though I guess Katie is an adult too.
But Katie has, like, that, like
She has a youthful quality and innocence to her
yeah.
that Sarah Jane does not.
And then, like, Liz just doesn't really work as a companion just because she's too powerful, in terms of the mind. Like, I think the writers in particular just didn't know what to do with her when she is not with the Doctor, which is why, like, the best story is basically one that she's really
Her playing a different character?
she's really not even in the story because she's just a different character. Even when we do cut to the real Earth and then we get the real Liz Shaw, it's not like that's not the best part of the story.
No.
With that one, it's just the writers did not know how to write a female character for the Doctor's companion to be that strong of a independent woman at that stage.
Yeah. She was too much, like, intellectually the Doctor's peer, but they
Yeah.
still kinda wrote her in a role that Joe would kinda fill almost where, she's the one who can hold the Doctor's test tubes and say what a great job he's doing.
But it works that like the Liz Shaw character could work with a different doctor, but John's doctor is so much like I am in charge.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
am center stage. Like that's why Katie works so well with them because she can be the side character where John is the main character. It's hard for somebody that's as smart as Liz Shaw to be like secondary in a story. She kind of has to be the doctor's mutual, which doesn't work with the third doctor.
No. John is the Doctor that is commanding and in control and tackles every problem from a place of, I'm smarter than you. I have more wisdom, but not in like a boastful way, but in a factual way.
A little sometimes.
I mean, he can be a little bit boastful, but like, yeah, no, he definitely has an ego for sure. And that's why, Joe works so well and Liz and Sarah, I think, don't.
But, like, now I think it's just, like, we can just segue that into that, like, 3rd Doctor overall,
Yeah.
like, what do you think of him as a Doctor, Ben? Now that you've seen all of it.
I really like him. I think he is great. I think there's a lot of aspects of him I do like, and there's a lot of aspects that I think are missing. And I'm coming at it from a perspective, of course, of just the only like I've technically watched Eccleston's run, but that was like 15 years ago or 10 or whatever. It was a long time ago. I don't really remember it. So I'm coming at it from a perspective of just Troughton and Hartnell. And I think Troughton is still my favorite. There's a certain level of whimsy that Pertwee doesn't have. I mean, I like, and I think you agree, the Doctor to have a little bit of a bumbling fool who's secretly a master genius kind of energy to him, right?
Oh, yeah, and that's what John is not that.
No, he's just a master genius.
John is, "I am in control here. I am I am the hero of this story. Watch me do this and save the day." I would say, like, I echo a lot of the same things as you. I like the 3rd Doctor. I don't love the 3rd Doctor. I think that there's a lot of elements that he brings to the role that, of course, will go on through even the Shooty's iteration of the Doctor, especially, like, that action hero element of the Doctor that Jon Pertwee really takes control of. Like, he's the Doctor that the modern Doctor would go and, like, swing off of a rope and we'll do this epic stunt. It's like
Oh yeah.
no other Doctor before him would have done that. He added that to that character, and I think that's a lot you have to give credit for Pertwee for, that the Doctor can be an action hero and not just a science fiction hero. He really makes the show an action adventure show, much more like an emphasis of the action. And you have to respect that about his Doctor, and like especially you see that him doing a lot of those stunts where he is riding the motorcycles, he's riding the like, of course, riding all those machines and Planet of the Spiders.
Oh
But you
yeah.
could tell that he is loving it and he's enjoying it. You kind of feel it as well that you get his excitement and it's great. But it's hard sometimes to I don't really love the Doctor being at that arrogant and being that like just like thinking like no, I am in control of the situation and I know best. But then like I don't know because there is I do some of my other favorite Doctors are that way. So it's hard.
Yeah. I think each of the 3 doctors that I've experienced has kinda added a new ingredient to the mix of the Doctor as a character. Hartnell is a champion of justice, except for when he tried to, kill a caveman with a rock.
Thank you, Ian.
Troughton adds this kind of, disarming charm to him, and Pertwee, introduces him as an action hero, and I think all those aspects are seen in varying degrees in almost every future Doctor, I would hazard a guess.
And of course he has that element of he is a little bit more human more than the other two Doctors, I would
Oh,
say.
definitely, yeah.
Just because he's surrounded by them throughout the whole run, basically. And just having like that moment, like we talked about in Day of the Daleks, where he's drinking wine. That's so something that like the other two Doctors wouldn't do. And like drink wine and eat cheese, like especially maybe Hartnell would do it, but like definitely Trotter would not drink wine.
Uh, Hartnell's doctor specifically has stated that he does not drink alcohol in The Gunslingers, my favorite episode. But he's been known to, indulge in like fine food in one of the historicals. What was it?
I just remember in the Aztecs, he drinks like that hot chocolate drink.
Oh yeah. In the Romans, they stay in Rome for like 2 months just lounging around in togas, eating fine foods and
But Pertwee is like different in that way. And he also is different in that way in terms of like really like bringing back that element that like we mentioned before that Hartnell kind of had of the grandfatherly aspect of the character.
Definitely.
Troughton is not really the fatherly towards his companions.
No.
He's much more like their friend.
Or more than friends.
Definitely something was going on with him and Jamie. Let's be honest there. But bringing that back to the character, having him have that fatherly relationship with a Joe, I think is a great addition to the Doctor, and it fits so well for John, who I would imagine I believe at this point was a father himself. The fatherly aspect of him is definitely an aspect of the Third Doctor that I love, which is why it's hard when he does do that to Sarah and it doesn't work.
No, that's why Joe is the companion for sure. Because it works. Their dynamic just works so well.
And of course, more than his two former doctors, much more passionate about his what he wears, his fashion. Changes it almost every episode. He does some type of new outfit. What do you think of that change of the character, having the character kind of more having a revolving wardrobe, which is something that we don't really get from the Doctor, except for recently with Shooty.
He's not in his red coat for every episode. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good aspect to his character. And I don't know how much of it is specifically Pertwee and how much is specifically just the Doctor from now on, but it, shows how, I guess, expressive he is. He, appreciates the finer things in life, like wine and clothes. It is given quite a lot of attention, I feel. Like a lot of the first episode of Spirit Him from Space is him finding a new outfit
Yeah.
that he just steals. And then every kind of outfit follows a similar kind of guidelines.
I think that it's one of those elements that we've talked about throughout this whole conversation that John brings to it. You can definitely tell that's a John idea of saying, I want to have new outfits. I want to be fashionable.
Fast cars.
And with the fast car, and with I want to drink wine and I want to be royal.
He's been described as like the James Bond of Doctor Who kind of thing.
Yeah, I think there's bit of that that's like, he's so much more an asexual character. So I don't know how much the James Bond comparison is really
I guess that's true.
there. But I see it on the other way that he is fashionable. He would play poker and he would just lounge at a nice resort in the mountains or in like the Bahamas. You could picture that.
Oh yeah. I've been slacking. I'm not caught up with all the comic books, believe it or not. But what I have read, he starts with like Liz, and then he has a cabin in England that he retires to until, Una calls him up and saying there's some weird space rock. He's definitely the kind of character where that is accurate.
Do you think that the exile to Earth was the right move at this time of the show?
That's a tough one. Ultimately, I think it was. If season 7 was just season 6 in color, I think it having the Doctor being, like you said, very, like, human and grounded, and on Earth, he has friends, really shakes things up a lot, and if it was just more the same, I think I would have gotten bored. And it is also, a relief when his exile is finally lifted. I think if it was 5 seasons out on Earth, that would be terrible. Maybe it went on just, like, a little too long, like, if it was, like, halfway through season no, I guess Exile was lifted in beginning of season 10.
Yeah.
If it was, like, halfway or the beginning of season 9, I think it might have been better.
I agree with you. I think around that time of the show, the exile and the earthbound setting, and just even like when we do go to an alien planet, having it have to be so convoluted. I think that by that point of season 9, you kind of wish I want the TARDIS back. The show kind of needs it at that point. But of course, we have that one more season, and then we finally get it with season 10. And it is refreshing by that point of when it's like, oh yeah, finally we're getting TARDIS space stories.
Yeah.
And we both very liked season 10. One of the factors probably is due to that.
Yeah, Pertwee's Doctor is definitely missing the aspect of the TARDIS as his home.
Yes. But then
I get that his thing is he has a new home on Earth,
yeah.
but I know. Turning the TARDIS into just kind of a vehicle feels like it's doing a disservice.
Yeah. Also, just like there's like that mythic aspect of the Doctor and the TARDIS, just going from like place to place that I love about the character, and that's kind of missing in the Third Doctor just because it's so but earthbound. To the point of the TARDIS entrance for Joe really isn't that special. Where like for other companions, it's a really big deal. That's like, oh my god, I went in the TARDIS, and what is this place? And there's a big speech of, oh, this is the TARDIS, this is my ship, and like they do the whole explanation. But the Third Doctor era does not care about that at all.
Yeah, it's definitely missing that kind of myth, like you said, of the Doctor and the TARDIS exploring the cosmos wherever the will of the TARDIS takes me. And when the Doctor does regain control of his TARDIS as well, he's very much in control
Yeah.
of the TARDIS. There isn't a surprise when he ends up somewhere.
There is. He tries to get to Metabolus 3, but it always fucks up. There is a surprise.
Has he tried multiple times to get to Metabase?
Yeah, because that's how they wound up because of Carnival in space. They're like, oh, it's Metabolus 3, isn't it? Like, don't you know? I know, of course it's Metabolus 3. And then he's like, oh, no shit, this is Metabolus.
Oh, I totally missed that aspect to it.
Yeah, like I think the whole season he's trying to get to Metabolus 3, but he keeps on fucking up.
Damn, takes until the time monster. That was one thing that was introduced this season, the idea of the TARDIS as a living, sentient kind of entity.
Yeah.
That hasn't really been brought up in any serious amount in the first 6 seasons.
Yeah, and they don't really talk about it that much. It's just kind of a couple lines of dialogue. It's never like a big deal.
That is a big plus for the time monster.
What else should we talk about the Third Doctor's era? Do you have anything else?
I don't know. There's so much. It's hard to really boil it all down. Tom Baker's going to be hard to boil it all down.
I'm thinking we're gonna do it by producer error, and then we're gonna do one overall.
Okay. Do like a Hinchcliffe era and other guy
Graham
era.
Williams, and then JNT just has one season, so we'll just do
Yeah,
that. By that point, it's just gonna be the Tom Baker perspective.
gotcha. Okay. I guess we can talk about what our favorite cliffhangers are.
So we both have top five favorite cliffhangers. I'm gonna start off with with my fifth one then. So number five, I have the end cliffhanger for Time Warrior Part One, the reveal of the Sontaran when the Doctor sees it, and it's the big turnaround moment. I just love that cliffhanger so much.
I had a feeling you were going to pick that one.
And a show that is so regards for its bad special effects, it's one of the few moments of the classic show you really where you go, "Oh, that special effect still holds up today."
Mhm.
So what's your number 5 then?
It's tough. I went through all my notes. I came up with 12 that I thought were really good. So I think I narrowed it down to 5. I'm I'm not so certain about the order, but I'm gonna roll with it anyway. So for 5, I did the third cliffhanger of Invasion of the Dinosaurs, where Sarah Jane wakes up on a spaceship 3 months later. What the hell's going on?
That's an interesting one. I wouldn't pick that myself, but, like, it definitely it's not a bad cliffhanger, I would say.
To me, my favorite cliffhangers make me go like, "Holy shit, that changes everything."
Yeah.
I less like, "Ah, Agador in my face. What? Oh no," because I know it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Something that changes the stakes, I think, are some of my favorites, or otherwise just a really cool visual.
Alright, so for not my number 4, I have kind of the Monsters Part 1, the cliffhanger of the hand reaching down to grab the TARDIS. It is another one of those where the special effects look so good even today, and it's one that just I could imagine for a child, it would spark that, like, imagination in your mind of just anything is possible. I just love it.
Oh yeah, I could totally see a kid like recreating that with their own TARDIS toy.
Yeah.
My 4th, a little bit of a weird one. The 3rd cliffhanger of Colony in Space of all episodes, where Joe is taken to the underground city and you see, darkness shroud her face where you just see like the top half of her face and her in her eyes, you can see she's, like, terrified. I thought that one was really good.
Interesting. How the fuck did you even remember this one?
I looked at my notes, and then I refreshed my memory just now and thought, "Oh, that's really cool, actually."
Interesting. I would never have thought you would have picked that one.
Mhm.
For number 3, I picked, the Auton policeman reveal in Terror of the Autons, where it's revealed that the policeman that they got captured, that saved them is actually an Auton all along. It's such a good cliffhanger.
That is a good one. My 3rd is, of course, the giant hand reaching down and picking up the TARDIS in Carnival of Monsters. That is such a good visual. So, so good.
Oh, yeah. My number 2 is, I don't know what episode of Inferno this is, but it's the Inferno cliffhanger where they're cutting down. The countdown's about to like end, and at the same time, the sound of the planet screaming over its rage starts to like hiss. And then at the same time, the doctor gets a gun pulled at him. It's just like one of the cliffhangers where like there's like three or four things going on. The stakes are at the highest point. Even the sound design is getting you there, and like it's just one of those episodes where you just automatically want to watch the next episode. It is the definition of a great cliffhanger.
Oh, I absolutely agree. That was one of my 12, and it just narrowly I mean, I coulda gone either way for it being in my top 5. It's really, really great. I think they've done that before. The Doctor's been held up at gunpoint before. There's probably been a countdown, but the way that that episode does it, I think is pretty much perfect.
And the hiss as well just makes that tension even more like grow and grow and grow and just so good.
Mhm. My second is the first cliffhanger of The Mind of Evil as the Doctor is attacked by the Keller machine, and you see him engulfed in flames and screaming and clutching his face as he's remembering the trauma of Inferno.
I thought you were gonna pick this one, or you were gonna pick another one for Mind of Evil.
Oh, yeah, the 3rd cliffhanger where the same thing happens, but also there's, you hear "exterminate" and "Cybermen." That's on my 12, but I think I like the simplicity of the first one more.
And then for my number one, which I assume is probably your number one as well, it's the Ambassadors of Death's Cut It Open sequence where they come back to orbit and they are now on Earth and
Oh,
they
yeah.
have they have communications with the astronauts, but it keeps on repeating and the doctor grabs hold of the microphone and starts asking like random questions.
"How many beans make 5?"
And it's one of those great things that, like the Inferno one I mentioned before, they've really built the tension with the repeated words of the astronauts. And like by the point where you get the doctor saying "cut it open," you really are just on the edge of your seat, just wanting to find out what is the whole deal with it, and it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. That was one of my 12.
It's not your number one.
It isn't my number 1. My number 1 is the final cliffhanger of Inferno as the power plant finally blows up. Lava approaches the hut that they're in. Liz screams and clutches. I think his name is Greg. Just the visual of the world's ended and the lava's closing in. All hope is lost. Really good.
I was thinking about doing that one, but I watched like the both of the cliffhangers, and I just thought as a in terms of a cliffhanger, I think I prefer the one of the previous episode where the countdown's happening. I think that the stakes are a little bit more high in that one, where the end of the world, it's kind of like the stakes are basically at that point. You're just like, okay, the doctor just gonna use the TARDIS to get out of this world at this point. But even though I say that, but like it's a great cliffhanger. It's
Yeah.
the highest of high that you could bring a story to the end of the world.
Absolutely. Really, really great. A lot of great cliffhangers. A lot of not good cliffhangers, sadly. Any honorable mentions? I kind of want to throw out a couple more.
The main one is just the one that the death of the Daleks one where it's just stop and it's just it's like the pattern on the floor.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
one that's the definitive like bad cliffhanger. I'm gonna be shocked if throughout our whole time watching Doctor Who, if there's going to be a cliffhanger that bad.
God, I hope not. Some other really great cliffhangers I just want to mention quickly. Sea Devils episode 2, sword fight, so good. And then he has the knife thrown when the back is turned. The Time Monster episode 4, the master is laughing maniacally as the doctor is gone and Joe is sent plummeting through the time vortex. Spearhead from Space episode 1, the doctor's shot collapses. Really great, especially for the first cliffhanger of the era. And the Doctor Who and the Silurians episode 5, where it's the first plague death, where they go to the hospital, body on the ground. Doctor says it's the first death, and or something like it's the first death of many more to come.
That was another one that was almost gonna be on my list. I love that cliffhanger as well.
Yeah.
Trying to think, is there any more dishonorable cliffhangers, Ben?
Any more dishonorable cliffhangers? Death of the Daleks is the one that is like offensive.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember which one it is. The Planet of the Daleks, they make a balloon, but they're too heavy,
Yes.
but actually they're not heavy. That one's kinda stupid.
Yes.
Especially, I hate cliffhangers that are just resolved instantly. This one isn't resolved. It doesn't exist. They're actually not too heavy. There's no problem at all. It's just silly. I'm almost surprised he didn't say the one from Terror of the Autons where he's being strangled by the phone cord.
That's a good one too. So Ben, like overall, I think that what Terrence Dicks and Barry Letts was able to do with the Third Doctor era, the two those two being basically the main heads of the era.
Mhm.
I think they make a really solid science fiction TV show for the family. I think this era is consistent, and you could imagine at the time the whole family would gather around to watch these episodes, and I don't think a lot of people mom, dad, and the kids would all be happy at the end of the day from a majority of these stories watching it, that it would keep kids' attention as well as the dad's attention.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one of the hallmarks of this era is just how consistent it is, and it's one of the heights of the show in terms of its popularity with just general audiences.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it's great how consistent it is. 95% of these episodes are 7 out of 10s or better, which I can tell you, like, from the first 6 seasons, there are some great fucking episodes there, and there are also some horrendously awful ones.
Yeah,
Like I said earlier, even the bad ones are like, they're not terrible.
no,
They're not offensive. They're just like 5 out of 10.
but of course, like in some ways, their biggest contribution to the show is coming going to be coming up very soon for us. Them casting Tom Baker, you could argue, is their biggest contribution to the whole show.
Mhm.
Because without them casting Tom Baker, who knows if this show will even be on air at this point, and if we would be even talking about it.
You think if, Pertwee stayed on for a 12 or a 13, you don't think it'd still be running today?
Oh, no, I think by that point the show needed to change, and then by that point, who knows? Tom Baker could have retired from acting and decided just to do construction for the rest of his life, and it would be a different world.
Oh. Did the stars really align that much?
Oh yeah, he was gonna give like Tom Baker was gonna give up acting because he was on a construction site. Like he was like he pleaded with the BBC, like the head of the BBC, being like, "I need work. I need an acting gig," and that's when he was like, "Oh," he mentioned him to Barry Letts and said, "Ah, I know this guy. Could be a good Doctor Who."
And the rest is history.
Yeah. So join us next week when we actually get to see Tom Baker as Doctor Who in Robot. How excited are you, Ben, for Tom Baker finally?
I am so fucking excited. I can't even tell you. We've been doing this expanded media, and that's great, but I feel it in my bones. I'm ready.
And then you just the bad thing about Tom, right, is that I'm so excited to watch Tom, but also I know by a point it's gonna be like fucking hell. There's so much like it's gonna be high like when we get to like season like 16, 17. I'm gonna have enough of Tom Baker, I feel like, but I don't know if that's even possible, Ben. He's Tom Baker.
You think is it 6 seasons? 6 seasons is too much?
It could be. It very much could be. Um
No, it's 7 seasons, right?
yeah,
12 through 18.
yeah. He did a lot of Doctor Who. Some might say a little bit too much.
Wow. Please be sure to tune in next week and have a wonderful day.
Peace out.